Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Writer in Residence info session for Hedgebrook. It is just a little bit after noon here. My name is Amber Flame, and I'm the program director at Hedgebrook. Super thrilled to be here, see some people watching. This is really an info session that's supposed to serve you as much as possible. So if you have questions, please comment, drop them in the comments. We have people standing by to guide them to me so that I can answer as best as possible. Also apologize for background noise. The neighbors are chopping trees right now. So life continues on. We're going to move with grace and flexibility. And I just wanted to run down some quick notes about the Writer in Residence application that has just launched. It is closing on June 28th. There will be staff available to help you with your application or any tech issues you're having until 5 p.m. on that Monday. And then the application is actually open until midnight. So Pacific time. So you have extra time, but if you need support, I strongly encourage you to ask ahead of time. A couple other notes. It's open to nonprofits. It's open to nonfiction prose writers, fiction prose writers, poetry, playwrights, and screenwriters/television writers. Does it matter if our references attended Hedgebrook themselves or not? Absolutely does not matter. So let's talk about references for a minute. The idea for the references, you're going to have a personal one and a professional one. The professional one can speak to the quality of your work, can speak to your craft. The personal one is so that we can know how you will be in community, how you will be in solitude. It is, you get a cottage, there's woods around. Some people are city slickers and can't handle that. So this is somebody who might be able to speak to how you handle solitude and how you handle community, how you show up in community. More helpful would actually be a personal reference that maybe was in residency with you or has done like a little retreat with you or gone on vacation with you even. Somebody who knows who you are outside of your house, outside of your own brain. That's a great question, Marissa. Thank you for asking. I will be jumping into the questions that you have as they come through. But first, I want to just give you a little rundown of some of the notes that we got from our last round of judges that might be helpful to you to keep in mind. Most of this is spelled out on our FAQ for the Writer in Residence application. But as we know, writers don't always read. So we're gonna share. We're gonna give you another way to learn about it. Some of the notes that we have, be clear what your role in your writing samples are. If it's a collaborative work for some reason, make sure you're very clear in your work sample description, what is happening and what role you played. Let's see, your job as an applicant, this is a really, really clear, cut and dried way to put it. Your job as an applicant is to convey to the readers, which are not the Hedgebrook staff, your passion for your project, your skill and ability to do the work, and your current work as an advocate or where you are best suited to begin contributing to a community as an advocate. So all of those things are detailed on our FAQ page, but I would strongly encourage you to take some time with every single one of the questions that is in the application. The readers do read all of them, and there's different weighted, through each round, there's different weights on the different parts. So your work sample, your writing sample, is where you show us that you're a good writer. This is where you show the quality of your work in whatever genre you feel you have the strongest sample in. And so that would be the application that you have. For instance, I am a songwriter as well as a poet. I'm much better known as a poet than I am a songwriter. So if I wanted to, for some reason, apply to a songwriting application, which we don't have open this time, I would want to apply actually in poetry with my strongest poetry writing sample. Then in my artist statement is where I would explain that I want to delve into some songwriting and I would want to talk passionately about the project that I'm bringing to work on at Hedgebrook and talk about why I'm doing it. What is important to me? What is my connection? What is the motivation behind exploring whatever that project you want to bring? So if you're multi-genre, have no fear. Pick the best writing sample you have, apply in that genre, and then talk to us about it in the artist statement, what you want to do while you're in residency. We got another question. Under publications, should the title of the piece be included or only the title of the publication? Yeah, well, there's not a standard for artist resumes, but I would include both. There's Artist Trust has great great resources on how to make an artist resume. I encourage you to check them out, or just even Google artist resume. But in general, you would have the title of the piece that appeared, the publication that it appeared in, and the date. So at least the month and year that it appeared. If it appeared over a chunk of time, then you would say in 2017, or first published in 2017, something like that. The publications show us that you're skilled and you're out there in the world and you're publishing your work, but those are going to be where you also show that diversity of voice, that advocacy work. So your resume, your publications, all of that is where you can really start to expand what we know about you as a writer in community. Do you mentor youth? Do you work with disabled vets? Do I work with formerly incarcerated people? Things like that show us how you show up in the world and give us a broader, a clearer picture of who you are as a whole person. I understand our names are not supposed to be anywhere on the application. Let's see. Candace, I'll come back to yours. Oh, Ursula, it looks like your question cut off halfway through. So come back to that one, because names are important, and I'll try to touch on that as well. Candace, you say, I'm multi-genre. So if we want to work on a project in a genre we're less experienced in, say fiction, we should still apply in our strongest genre, say poetry. Exactly that, Candace. Yes, that's a perfect example. So you want to tell us, I really want to explore poetry. I have this, or I really want to explore fiction. I have this story. I need residency time to really dive into it. This is why it's important to me. That all goes in your artist statement, but you're applying in poetry. What is the timeline for references? Is there a reference due by June 28th as well? Or do they receive instructions / a due date after we finish applying? Great questions, y'all. Okay, so Rachel, your references will not be contacted unless you are selected for the residency. So you provide them in the application. After the adjudication has completely wrapped up, those who are selected for residency, we reach out to their references as long as there's no red flags. This is why we have a wait list as well. As long as there's no red flags or any reasons for concern, or we're just not hearing back from your references, then you would then be awarded a residency. So references are contacted well after the due date for your application, but you should let them know that they should be hearing from us. Also, the reference process is really, really simple. It's a Google form that we send to them. They fill it out and they give us some information, and we store it with your profile. We don't tend to have problems with our writers, and we don't expect to have problems, but it is nice to hear some of that affirmation from somebody else. Let's see. Let's talk about names on applications. Nowhere. This is the fastest and quickest way for a reader to say, oh, I don't even have to read that, because they disqualified themselves. While we are expanding how many residencies we're going to be having each year, they're still limited, and there's still hundreds of applications that come in. Do not have your name on your application. Do not have it on your resume. Do not have it on your work samples. Make a scan before you upload anything and just say, is my name appearing anywhere here? However, things like, my name is Amber Flame. That's a poetic name, if I do say so myself, and I might use it in my poetry. As long as I'm not explicitly referring to my name, that should be fine. But you don't want it to be like flame _ work sample or flame _ resume. It's an easy slip to make, so catch yourself before you wreck yourself. Any other questions coming through, please let me know. Let's see. What else did I want to cover? I have some notes. Screenwriting and television writing are not the same, but we encourage both writers to apply to the screenwriting application, which is why we put a slash. I know that's a really hot field right now, so I'm hoping that we get a lot of more diverse voices in there. One of the things that we did over this last year is realign our residency program. Hopefully you've seen the many, many emails, the many, many posts we put out about this. A quick slide about what we did is available on our website. And what I did is I took a step back. I got to come in as an alum with that experience, and I took a step back with my team, and I said, okay, if what we do is this residency program and it's world-renowned, it's spectacular, it's something people want to come to, we know that, how do we do this better? And so we have folded in other genres into the residency program. Instead of having a songwriters festival and a screenwriters festival and a documentary film lab and a playwrights festival, I was like, why don't we have more of those people together at the table, cross-pollinating, collaborating? And Britt Kahn, who is one of our history holders, our program manager, she was like, when that happens, so many interested, it's great for a musician to be sitting there with a screenwriter or a filmmaker, because then you have a chance where they might influence, not just influence their project in process, but end up being in a collaborative state, which is really, really wonderful. So we're hoping to foster more of that. We are also needing to be very, we took a step back from songwriting because we want to make sure that it's very, very clear and that the application is specific and is able to be adjudicated, and it's not kind of all over the place. So we're learning as we go. We beg your patience, we beg your grace, but we really do hope that this is a more equitable way of adjudicating. Same percentages work out for the applicants, where we have more and more who are accepted. Let's see, we got some more. Is there a word or page limit for the artist statement? Oh, there is a character limit, is there not? I'm looking at Britt, who you all can't see. Is there a page limit on resumes? There isn't a page limit on resumes, but let's be real. If you were having to read a bunch of applications, you don't want to spend a lot of time scanning through a resume. What I would do is if you have an extensive resume, if I do my full resume, for instance, it's probably like going on 5 to 7 pages. I would focus on the most recent things, the big things, awards, recognition that you've received, any commission work, that kind of thing, so that we can see pretty quickly. I would keep it to 2. 1,200 character limit, but does that include spaces or exclude them? All right, Colette is getting down into the details. It includes them, is what I'm hearing. It includes them. So Britt says it does include them. So Colette, on your question about the resume, I would keep it to 2 pages. They were more than likely not going to pay much attention beyond 2 pages. Now, I'm speaking as somebody who's done reading, but I'm not speaking as the adjudicator in this case. Resumes are, like I said, that's where we get the full picture of you. We get a bigger picture of where your work has been in the world and what focus you've had, what other communities you might have been connected to. But where we're really focusing on you showing us your quality is in your writing sample. Aside from the title, does anything else need to appear on the writing sample? So what we've added is an option to include a work sample description, a writing sample description, and I strongly encourage you to use that. You do not have to send 2 pages, or even it's 1 page limit. You do not have to use a full page, but it gives it context. So if you're submitting 10 poems and they're from a broader work that you're working on, a writing sample description will allow you to tell the judges, this is something that is in a bigger context. An excerpt from your play. Give us a chance to learn what your play is about as a whole, not just this wonderful sample that you've picked. Aside from the title, okay. Can you speak to how you both value new writers as well as highly developed work? Yes. I would actually say historically that highly developed work in some ways is not what is most looked for. Can speak to how I value it myself. That's not super helpful because I'm not adjudicating, but they are looking for. One of the things we talk about in our orientation is thinking about your biases and how they might inform things. There's a reason why editors have a job. So you might, if you know as a reader that you're going in with a bias around poor grammar or something like that, to keep that in mind. There's also pairs that happen, and so readers are always talking with their paired reader. And then through each round, there's basically, this is what stood out to me. This is why I'm excited about this work. This is why I advocate. They kind of have to advocate for their picks. So in that way, it ends up being, there's people who are very, very excited about new voices. There's people who are very, very excited about highly developed work, but it's read so blindly that what we're looking for is do they have something really amazing to say? Like, why Hedgebrook? Why now? Is this an urgent piece? Is this Is this a voice that we don't hear from? There's a lot of little pieces we ask them to consider, and one of them is we want a blend of experienced writers and new writers. We want a blend of emerging and established, and so they know they also want that blend. These are people who are highly invested in Hedgebrook and what it is. Luca, that feels a little bit wishy-washy as an answer. So I can come back to it. Let me think on it a little bit. And Britt, I don't know if you want to drop a note for me in the private chat around this. Can you speak to how you both value new writers as well as highly developed work? Give me a second. I'm going to scroll up to some of the ones that we missed. Perfect. What about including advocacy work unrelated to writing, such as work in animal advocacy, grants received for that kind of work? Would that be relevant? I think that's where you talk about, that's in the artist statement chunk of the application. You tell us your passion, what motivates you, what's inspired you or influenced you as a writer, and I think that would be a time to really to talk about that, to say that this is, it can't not inform you as a person and what you're passionate about. So I would say yes, put it in the resume, and this is it feels like I feel like I'm giving you advice that I don't. I'm like, I would suggest putting it in the resume. If you've received a grant for your advocacy work with animal rights or something like that, I would put that in your resume, and I would talk at least briefly about how that's one of the motivating passions in your life. That's a great question. Y'all are coming for it. Okay. Are there any buzzwords or angles we should try to avoid in the artist statement? Like any common mistakes you've seen in statements where the writer didn't quite get to the point of the statement? When I applied for a grant and I actually drafted it in time to go to one of those sessions where they'll review it with you. I got some really, really great feedback that I always use going forward, which is be simple, be plain. You don't need, the artist statement is not a work of art. It's a statement about you as an artist. So I would very plainly speak about who you are as an artist, what motivates you, what you're passionate about, and what you want to work on coming to Hedgebrook. The more clear it is, the less befuddling it is. I think we have a tendency as writers to be like, okay, I'm going to craft this thing, and a statement is a statement. I'm Amber Flame. I'm a singer and a songwriter. I'm a poet. I'm going to play, just talk to us about yourself plainly so that we can read it and understand who you are. I would say that's probably the best way to go. Buzzwords and I don't know that there's been buzzwords or angles. I'm checking with, oh, thank you, Britt. Britt is correcting me about something. There's nothing that we've clocked as a regular thing. Not for the artist statement, but I would go, once again, I would be as authentic self as possible. Be conversational in tone is what I've heard has been really effective. I think the judges were impressed when they could see very clearly what work you're already doing, what you are initiating yourself and not waiting for a residency to do. So I'm looking at my notes here, actively engaging in advocacy, that kind of thing. Let me know if I would like to know more about the advocacy question. Sounds like you want to know current affiliations, but also skill sets to contribute in future work. Would you say that's correct? Yes, that is correct. We in fact we talk about Hedgebrook as a community and the different ways in which we show up for our community. All of our programs are alum-led, alum-facilitated. They're all about amplifying the voices of the women writers who've come through Hedgebrook and women writers all over the world, whether they've come through Hedgebrook or not. So when you're talking about advocacy, maybe you are like, I would love to work with youth, but I've never worked with youth. You would include that as well as, but I do advocate for animal rights. In the artist statement, you should talk about, it should not just be a wishful thinking, like, yeah, I would love to contribute something sometime. Be specific. Say, where my skill sets really could lend is in workshops maybe about the writer's life, or how to discipline yourself to submit your work or something like that. I hope that makes sense. Lou, let's see. How might an emerging new writer best convey the urgency of why Hedgebrook, why now? I always laugh because why Hedgebrook is an easy question. Like, why not Hedgebrook? I don't know. I'm like, what else would you say to that? And so as Britt and I were talking through this whole process, I like to think of it as a question where you let us know what precipice you're on creatively. I've seen really successful ones be from people who are caregivers, who are like, I have been plugging away at this novel and I just need some time. And, but it's hard to get away because I'm the main caregiver for my parents, or I have 5 children, or, there's the urgency of Hedgebrook now is where you talk about why this work needs to show up in the world. And Hedgebrook is the way that you're going to support yourself to get it out in the world. Hope that makes sense. I'm going to try to stop saying, I hope that makes sense. It's just going to have to make sense, or you're going to have to ask another question, clarifying question. Let's see. One of my publications has the name of an organization in the title. Is this a disqualifier? If yes, how do you suggest handling? No, it's not a disqualifier. Their name is not what will disqualify you. Your name is what will disqualify you. And if for instance it was like, I don't know, The Praxis of Amber Flame got published by blah, 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 and I wanted to include it in my resume, I would say The Praxis of artist name. I would change it and insert artist name in like brackets or something to indicate that that's where my name goes, but I'm not putting my name in because I read the instructions. I also want to circle back. Britt said that the resume is for creative/writing work. That's how we state in our instructions. Thanks for the reminder, Britt. So back to that animal advocacy or grants or anything like that. It's a tricky one. I also know that sometimes you don't have a really robust writing and creative resume because you spend your time doing other things. But if you wrote a grant, that's writing. That's how I see it. So I would put it in. It's pretty impressive when you're getting when you're getting funding for the work that you're trying to do out in the world as an advocate. For a personal reference, can it be a spouse? I wouldn't. If the only person who can speak to you as a person is the person you're married to, then I would encourage you to build more community. It does not have to be somebody who knows you well. It can be somebody, Brett, don't laugh at me. I mean, but for real, it should be somebody outside of your home who experiences you outside of your home. And it can be an acquaintance. It does not have to be somebody who's like your best friend and they're also creative and you write together, and you've gone on retreats. It's somebody who sees you out in community and can speak to you being not an asshole, kind of, like we want to make sure that you're not going to come and mess up the land and make the experience for everybody else horrible. So somebody who can kind of speak to your character. I would say it's probably a better choice to pick like a sibling or a family member not married to you, because hopefully your spouse will say nice things. Will this webinar be recorded and available later? This one is being recorded right now, and it will be available later. It's not going to be my finest work, but we're going to put it up on our YouTube channel. It'll be available literally minutes after this, so you can come circle back around. We're hoping that it helps reduce the number of times you need to reach out to us and ask questions. So this is exactly what it's for. Thank you for joining this. We will also be embedding the link to this on our Writer in Residence page, so you can jump right to this soon. Is it okay to name organizations in the answer to the advocacy question? Yes, it's okay. First of all, yes, it's okay. Colette, I would really think more about, if you can, pull yourself out and imagine that this blank application is coming to you. What do you want us to know? And I keep saying us like I'm doing this, but really, what do you want the reader to know about those organizations? What did you do for those organizations? Name dropping, while it can be, I wouldn't say it's harmful, it won't hurt, it's not nearly as effective as saying, like working for an organization that serves formerly incarcerated people. I was able to bring programming that, like creative writing classes to women and youth who had been incarcerated. Do I need the organization's name in that? Not necessarily, but you can. Our reviewers do not Google applicants. Thank you for that note, Britt. So they're not going to Google the organizations. They're not going to find out about it. If we can't tell by the organization, oh, no, yeah, no. I don't think you need to worry about that, Colette. Thanks for that clarity. Let's see. Britt has a note. The reviewer recognizes a writer based on their application. We assign your application to another reviewer. That's a very important note I did not mention before. So if somebody's like, oh shit, I know who this is, we reassign that application. If we're working with a literary agent or going on submission, etc., are those things we should include in the why now sentiment, or is that not appropriate, the right direction? I don't think that there's anything wrong with including that. I think that is actually like to say, I have a book and I have to finish it because I have an agent who is waiting for it. That definitely has some urgency. We know that lets the reader know that your work is highly sought after and already has a platform or an audience waiting for it. I don't know. Then it comes down to like how they feel about the work that you're putting there, right, Marissa? So I wouldn't stick with just that. I would go deeper. I would also talk about like so Hedgebrook, as we know, I'm very proud to be an alum of Hedgebrook. It's one of the marks of approval that you get as a writer, especially a woman-identified writer. It looks good on your resume. It's a stamp of approval as a writer. It says you kind of made it to a certain level of professionalism. And this is like without any publications. Some people get this on their first try. I applied for years. I did. I applied multiple times and I didn't give up because I knew Hedgebrook was important and it was something I needed. When I got it, and this is multiple people have said this, I applied for years and years. I didn't get in. I almost gave up and then I got it and it was the perfect time. I got it right in time. That was just real. That was real for me. It was real for everybody that I know who has come to Hedgebrook. It's like somehow the land brings you when it's time. Now that's a really very woo-woo. So what I would say is talk about how you know that Hedgebrook would change your writing career as well as the other pieces that you're mentioning. So yes, there's urgency for this writing sample or for this project that I'm coming to work on. And there's urgency for me as a writer because in my creative life, this is where I'm at and this is where it will help me go. Okay. On cultural heritage question, how can we convey our heritage, which might be unique and strange on the family level, but not from a larger group? Hopefully that makes sense. So Charlene, I'm going to name it. It sounds like you have some really strong culture, some really strong family ties, but on paper you might appear as a white woman. That's something that this has come up as a question before. Like, how do I show that it's deeper than that? Go in your artist statement. In your artist statement, for sure. Talk about like, this is my particular family of origin had certain things. I was raised in a fundamentalist Christian church. Talking about that and how it's influenced me as a writer. That's where you'll be able to expound on that and like let us know that there's more to you that you want considered, if that makes sense. Especially if it shows up in your work. Okay, I am going to say this and I'm going to say it again and again. Don't give up on Hedgebrook. Hedgebrook's not giving up on you. We've been here this is our 32nd year. There's only going to be more women-identified writers coming through. There's spectacular writers coming out into the world with new work all the time. And we are thrilled and proud to call them Hedgebrook alum. We are thrilled and proud for the opportunity to bring you into the community. Please don't give up. Keep applying. We hope that with a more equitable adjudication process for other genres, as well as some of the things we've done around timing to make it so that we can have more residents come every year, means that more of you have a chance to come this next year. I'm very, very in love with Hedgebrook. I'm in love with my job. I'm in love with this community, and I can't wait to see your applications come in. So get to writing. If you have any questions, as we said, contact us, programs@hedgebrook.org for help. Don't doubt yourself. Just tell us how awesome you are, how awesome your project is, and then show us your awesome writing. That's what we need. That's what we need. And we will see you on Slide Room in the applications. Thank you all. Have a good one.